And then the rest, I just want to be Strats this time. It's hard to get away from these fucking things, but I'm gonna try.
Well, I noticed, what did I write? I wrote on one of them. Oh, on Ghost. And I remember when we talked last time with the last record too, that I just love that thin, like Knopfler sounding, the Strat, just the Strat right into the amp.
I like to juice it with a little bit of compression now and then, but it is a sound that for me is just such a
Does it come from Knopfler, or does it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that use that sound.
Yeah, I just go to that all the time for some reason.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I'm such a huge Knopfler freak.
So let's start with your guitar influences maybe then, since we're rolling, and Mark Knopfler and going back.
Well, yeah, Mark Knopfler's been huge. Initially with obviously like Communique and the first record, those two albums were huge for me, and that sound, which I later found out that was really, really similar to J.J. Cale records that were out just before it.
Oh,
like the sound of the albums is very. I'm like, whoa! This is the first two Dire Straits records, and it's like, no, that's J.J. Cale. What? So, but obviously his playing and his tone is what we're talking about here. Now,
yeah.
You know, you can try as hard as you can to nick it, but unless you're him, you're not going to do it.
Is that what you try and do though? When you hear your
when I was young, that was the aim. When I with a Knopfler or with a Ry Cooder or with a Stevie Ray or with a Steve Morse or an Eric Johnson, you try and you spend as much time as you can and you try to get. Okay, but what does it feel like to make those noises? And you know, try to get it as close as you can. And I can get pretty close to some of them, but it's, you know, there's still, the more you learn, the more you realize you have to learn. So the closer you get, you realize that you're further away, you know, because those guys are just doing what they do. So eventually, I think going through all those phases of different guitar players, and I'm still doing it. I'm still trying to rip stuff from people and figure out how they're doing what they're doing.
What did you learn on this record?
I think you know, it's just sort of what hat are you going to put on kind of thing. For, you know, for a solo, it's, you know, does the song need a solo? You know, does the song want a solo? Does it sound redundant or self-indulgent or whatever? And sometimes even that's cool. I've been guilty of that, you know.
Well, on stage it works, though.
Yeah, on stage, you know, if the time's right and the vibe is there and the crowd's into it, then why not? But I think it was definitely. I mean, some solos just write themselves. This has to be that, and initially it's just the sound. You just know what kind of sound it's supposed to be, and then I know what's going to come out of my hands if I have that sound.
What anything on this record that just kind of just?
Oh, well, yeah. Most of them, actually. But it was some of them. I remember the solo for Ghost, I was all over the map trying to find, as I was initially going for sort of a Robin Ford thing, where it was bluesy, but it was, you know, there was more color notes, and there was more, you know, I don't want to say jazz or outside, but there was a little more, you know, some more expensive phrasing, if you will.
Good term.
And the tone was like a little more semi-hollow and just a little bit of breakup. And I think it was Roberto Acapinti, the bass player, who came by. He's like, "It's great. Just do a Stevie thing with it. Just Albert King it, man." And I was like, "Oh, just grab a Strat, and then it's just like, you know, 10 minutes later you have you know, that was the solo." And that's for the demo. And then when we went in, it was just a lot more about mic placement and how do we get that nice. How do I get as close to that sound that is really hard to? That's the sound that comes from the hands. That is, for me, it's painful to, because doing the solo, the first solo in Ghost was painful, because it's on a Strat with heavy strings and high action, and you really have to lean into it. The second solo was on a sewer, and it's just that buttery. I mean, I can just play that thing for hours and hours and get the sweetest tones imaginable, and almost no effort, you know. And it was surprisingly, when you dig into the sewer, it gives you more back, which most guitars that play that easily just kind of wither away.
On the opposite end of the question I asked you, what was the hardest one? Like, what took the most rewriting and going over?
Solo-wise?
No, like song writing, lyrics, whatever took the long, like...
I don't know, they all came together pretty quickly, because they were all pretty much sketches of tunes and ready to be flushed out into real songs.
So how long do some of these go back? Do they go back a while? Like ideas
It
for
depends, all
riffs or
over the
whatever?
map, all over the map. Some of the intros, the intro for Diamonds. I mean, Diamonds is a riff that Brian sent me over the phone. He'd been sending me a bunch of riffs. He lives out in Sarnia. So while we were doing this whole process and pre-production and demoing, he's sending little ideas. What do you think of this? And then I heard the one for Diamonds, and I was like, just floored. I said, this is something I can use. And it was in even a weirder time signature than it is now. It flip-flopped out. It was really cool, but for me, harder to follow. So I just sort of,
Do you gravitate towards that stuff? The stuff that's harder to follow?
Yes and no. I like the stuff that's for me is easy to just, it's natural. It's natural, it's easy to listen to. And then if you dissect it, it's like, oh, that's the stuff that I get turned on by, you know? Like we did like Across the Universe or something like that, where there's like just these weird turnarounds and things that just, they fit with the song. But if you actually sit down and analyze it, you know, why does it get me off so much? Why do I love this? This is just a natural curiosity of a musician.
So many people
or an
reference
artist.
that song, though. That's interesting.
Well, because you don't notice it, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Beatles stuff is like that. You don't notice that something really trippy just happened, you know.
Yeah.
Something feels weird, but it's like that's what's happening in the song, right? Salisbury Hill, for instance, is an odd time signature. Sting does it a lot. But it's I love that stuff. But I love it when it's like, oh, you just wrote a verse in 10. That's wicked. You know what I mean? As opposed to like you're just getting lost in the story and lost in the vibe of the song.
Lost in the I've heard you on stage. You still go back to the when you're playing a song on stage. It's not muscle memory for you. It's like you sound. And a lot of people don't do that. You
Yeah.
get yourself back into the position when you were ready.
Yeah. No, the other night, 2 nights ago in Sudbury, I started choking up during Blown Wide Open. Like towards the end of the song, I don't know what happened or why. Maybe I was just really overtired, or it was a little raw emotionally, and I choked up and I couldn't really sing the last few words. It was weird.
That's crazy.
And that's something that I had to think about for a few minutes afterwards. Like I've played this song 1,000 times, and it's just maybe whatever thought would kind of popped into my head on the outside while we were performing. Maybe just like, man, this song still gets me after all these years, and then that's all it takes.
Are there songs that you can't perform because of?
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Like what?
There's songs on this new record that I can't even rehearse.
So that's interesting. So you write a record knowing people listen to the record, but you also need to go on tour because that's what
Sometimes
bands do, right?
you can get past it, but I don't like to. You know what I mean? The emotional connection to something is. I mean, what are you doing if you're not that committed to it on that level? Then why am I charging people money to come watch us play a tune? You can just listen to it at home.
Yeah.
But there's songs on the record that were real hard to get through.
Like what? On this one?
Oh yeah,
like
War Baby, for instance, was a challenge.
That one's a little slower, right?
Yeah, and that's a cover. That's a Tom Robinson song, but it's been a
And
part
it's hard
of.
for you to get through, and it's a cover. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's been sort of like woven into the fabric of my life since I was a kid. Like my dad came home with the 12-inch single version of it. Because there's a bunch of different versions of War Baby that he did, and that's the version that I gravitated towards. And I've been looking for a way to do it for years. Like since college.
So what made it feel right this time? That's interesting.
I don't know. I just let's try it, because we've tried it before. I've tried jamming on it, and I was like, well, let's try it. And we just tried it, and it started working. And I changed the groove up a little bit for the chorus, and just added some extra background vocally things. And instead of the sax solo, I mimicked a lot of his lines on the sax solo with the guitar. And I don't know, it's such a well-written song. The lyrics are brilliant, and they cut right through me, and to sing them with any authenticity it's hard, because you kind of have to go to that place, and and it really is like walking a tightrope, because if you go too far one way or the other, you fall off.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like you're thinking, now, and it's either that way or you're trying not to. You know, it was really hard, but you know, I think it. For me, I that's what I want out of that song. You know what I mean? That's what I want to feel when I listen to it. Hopefully that translates for other people. But you know, it's kind of, I'm old enough to not really care if. Do you know what I mean?
When did that change?
That's what I think it's all about.
When did that change?
I don't think it's ever changed. It's always been there. I've just sort of focused on other things at different times throughout my career, if you want to call it that.
I just feel like young bands probably care more about, like, you know, the image, or not the image, but like, you want to people please, right? Until you get that success, and you're like, oh, you know what? People dig what I do.
Yeah.
I should probably do what makes me feel good.
You may never get the success. Now I'm at that point. You know what I mean? If I'm not going to get the success, I'd rather be happier.
You've had the success. You have the success, no?
To a certain degree, I'm able to scratch out a living doing music, so that to me is success, and especially doing music that I love doing. You know, I'm not playing music that I don't want to play, which is all the, you know, that's winning the whole thing to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm going to do the same sort of thing, like still struggling and getting by, and you know, just what millions and millions and millions of people do. If I have the choice to be able to make the music that I love making, or have to do things that are compromised for maybe a shot at getting that, you know, now everyone's going to love it.
See, I've heard you say you did that though a little bit.
Yeah, well,
and with this record, you're like, the hell with it. I'll do what I want.
The Thornley thing was a conscious that's you know, that's what we were going for.
So how do you purposely write a hit song? Like what
I don't know,
goes through your mind what changes in the process?
There's a billion theories.
No, but for you, like when you like
I don't
Come
have
Again or something,
I don't know
so
how
far,
to
so
write a
good.
hit song.
But you have.
Yeah, but that's just, hey man, you know.
Right.
I would never have picked Albatross to go number one. I would never have picked that as a hit. I thought it was a beautiful song and a beautiful centerpiece for that record, but that goes against the grain of any rule that I've heard about writing a hit song, because you need to hit the chorus within the first minute. I don't even start singing to the first minute. There's 2 guitar solos in it. You know, I don't know. I mean, I know there's all the theories. I've heard all the theories on what you need and to write music for the big machine, and you know, that's just not my bag. That's you know, it's hard for me to even play that stuff. It's
really
hard for me to listen to it. Yeah. It's just you know, once you've swam in the deep end, it's tough to. You know, I don't want to be in a waiting pool anymore.
No, I get it. Do you feel like you have to play those songs live though? Because people do want to hear them.
Well, yeah, like a song like "Come Again," for instance.
Yeah.
It's like that's like 8 minutes when we play it live, maybe more, depending on if we go off on a tangent. So we sort of, because I think the impetus, like the initial spark for the song is usually genuine. It comes from the right place for me, and it's just sort of the system that it goes through to become something that's going to be consumer friendly. You know what I mean? So chop that word's too big, that chord's too expensive, whatever. Simplify, dumb down, whatever you want to call it, to play the game. And you know, you take your beautiful little essence of an idea and then bastardize it, and it still doesn't, you know, get you to have a huge front gate and you know, an armed security guard and a private jet.
This is a pretty nice room, though, man. I like it down here. I can spend some time down here.
Oh, this is just this is the only room in the house that's like this.
Well, actually, since we're in here, I should bring this up because people are probably like, where the hell are they?
Yeah,
where are we?
This is my basement. This is my man cave. This is where, you know.
This is where most of the songs are written?
Write and record, yeah. Well, it's hard to do when everyone's yelling and screaming upstairs.
Yeah.
You know?
But I'm noticing a lot of electrics and just one acoustic. I guess the dobro too, but just one acoustic.
Yeah, no,
so is most stuff written on electric?
There's a couple more acoustics in the back. No, it's anything and
back
everything.
And forth.
Yeah.
You ever go back to piano to write? Because I heard you started on piano.
My life is something I wrote on piano.
Right.
Which I mean, it's a bit really just one of these. It's not.
But it's still it must have been a nice change to go to a different instrument.
I thought it was an interesting. You know, I thought it was an interesting flavor to add to the record. I thought that would have been a great first single to go with, like the new single from Big Wreck, and it was like piano, yeah. But you know, That's not my area, as I said before. But yeah, it's fun to go back to, but it's also a bit of a sore spot because I used to be good, and now it's like I'm just like really sort of ham-fisted. And, my daughter's coming up quick on it. So.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. So
You gotta sing some harmonies on the record.
I did. She came to the studio and.
What song's she on?
She's on My Life. She sang the.
Oh, okay.
She sang the backups in the doot-doos. She took the really high octave, and we mixed her down a bit because it's almost like chipmunks, She's just such a high little voice.
That's awesome.
But it's nice because it sort of stretches that part out a little.
Yeah. So talking about harmony, come what may, that harmony bridge thing. Oh, I love that. It's so
Thanks,
cool sounding.
Man.
It's different.
Yeah, that was a Nick idea. Initially, we had sort of a guitar solo thing. Same changes, like we sort of change the chords a little bit from the rest of the song. We changed the chords a little bit, and there was a little guitar thing, and there was a couple of background vocals that were sort of doing some ooze. And then Nick, right before we went into the studio, we were doing pre-production. He was like, "No, all vocals." And I knew it exactly. I knew it. At least I hoped what he was saying was like, "You mean this? So we're doing like a Queen Beach Boys thing, right?" And he was like, "Yep." I was like, "Yeah, that's gonna be so great." And I just sort of imagined it in my head. It was really easy. Like I just sort of went in and just started humming.
It's all you?
Yeah. It just took like an hour. Just start putting it together as low as I can go and as high as I can go.
And everything in between.
Yeah. It's different, I mean, it's nothing that hasn't been done before, but.
That's always nice to hear, though.
Yeah, it made me love the tune, because initially I was like, it just sounds like a Police rip, and it's a little too down the center for me, and but now it's just something else.
I don't know if this applies to what you were just saying, but how does having 3 guitars in the band change things? Like, is it hard? Is it easier to kind of be like, here, you take this part, I'll take this part?
Yeah. Because I'm generally the guys aren't really around when we're doing the pre-production and the demoing and oftentimes the recording, just because it's all often about time, and getting everybody in the same place, and then I was doing it over here, and this has this sound, but playing it live is like it definitely takes a load off because it does. I don't necessarily think differently when putting stuff together in the studio. Like, oh, well, this is going to be easy because we can take that. There's still stuff that we have to cheat live. So one guy is going to have to sort of play this half of this part and then go on to that part for the next section, and then we swap. And there's a lot of choreography that goes on between myself and Paulo and Brian to try to get this stuff to translate live.
Is that rehearsal part fun, trying to figure out who's going to take what part?
It can be. I don't know.
It can be, so not really. Okay.
But there's a lot of train wrecks,
Yeah.
But yeah, when we get it right, it's quite a thing. Because I mean, and those guys are phenomenal guitarists, so it's a joy to play with them. And when we get it right, it's I don't think there's any ego or anything like that involved at all with this band. So it's just all about the song and getting the performance right.
Speaking of performance, we talked about Slash and Velvet Revolver last time, but I noticed you're playing a show with Slash in Kitchener this summer. You think something
I don't know.
A little jam on stage, maybe?
I don't know. Well, Miles is an old friend, right? Like him and I go way back, and I love Miles, and he's just such a phenomenal singer. I've gotten a lot of tips from him over the years as far as maintenance goes. I've never taken
like vocal maintenance.
Yeah, I've never taken a vocal lesson, but he's like a trained dude, and he knows a lot about how all this stuff works. And how what's his biggest coffee is for you.
As you're drinking it, awesome.
Yeah, as I'm having a coffee. But I don't have to sing tomorrow, so.
Right.
But no, it's I don't know, because Miles has sang on our stuff before.
Where's he? What's he on?
He's on Breakthrough on the second album.
Oh.
Yeah, I needed that beautiful voice in the bridge, and then it was a big screamathon at the end of the song where I was just going to do my best Daltrey or Robert Plant stuff, and then I asked Miles, I was like, "You want to do it with me?" And so we were just screaming at the end. It's a lot of fun, but I can't scream as high as he can. Wow. But no, I mean, who knows? I doubt it.
Right.
I doubt it.
I just have to
'Cause
ask.
who knows?
People
who knows
wonder
how,
these things.
Yeah, but you never know what the setup is backstage and what the vibe is, and how sound checks are going, and there's always some hiccup.
Do you look forward to that stuff? Because I know a lot of musicians don't like to just jam. Like if you're sitting in a circle at
Oh,
a
no, I
campfire and
love
people
it.
are just like, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
I love it. I've never been very good at just sort of, playing a Stones tune or something. You know what I mean? Like I've never been. It's like I can, if I know the song, if I've heard it before, I could pretty much figure it out. Like I've been lucky that way. But with words and verses and, I'm not going to sit down and play Brown Eyed Girl or whatever. Like it's just not. But no, as far as like picking a groove and picking a tune that's, like what for us would be a standard, like a rock and roll standard, and then just Miles used to come up at the end of every at the end of every set for Big Wreck when he was with Mayfield 4. And then we'd have him up because not a lot of people know, but he's a ripping guitar player. Like ripping.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
And he's choosing not to. The opposite of what you were going to do, Phil.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I'm like, Miles, should have done that. But no, it's, and so, we just have a lot of fun with it. And just, calling and answering and trading fours and cutting heads and all that stuff. And so, I love doing that. As guitar players are usually like that. I'm not at that, like, cutting heads and all that sort of pissing contest stuff. It's just sort of, I've outgrown that. Now it's just about the enjoyment of, giving somebody else, the stage and seeing what they do with it. But having said that, when somebody gives you a little poke, it's like, all right, it's on.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's see what you got.
Well, let's see what you got with this. We do something called 5 questions.
All right.
5 quick questions, 1-word answers.
One-word answers?
1-word answers. Road or studio?
Both.
You said it last time. Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney.
When you hear a song, what usually hits you first? Lyrics, melody, or rhythm?
Melody.
If someone's never heard Big Wreck before, what song do they start with?
I digress.
Track 2 on this record.
Yeah.
In 1 word, Big Wreck.
I don't know, man. 1 word, Big Wreck. Coffee. There's a good word.
Yeah, coffee.
No.
Last time you said authentic.
Authentic. Okay. Let's say 1 word, Big Wreck. Quality.
Quality's
Very
good.
Quality.
Usually I close it there, but I do want to ask you, just bookending the record with the reprise. I've never known how to say that word.
We were saying reprise, and I heard somebody else say reprise.
Right, so no one knows the answer to that. Okay. So why the decision to do that? To bookend it with the same tune? Or just, I guess, the chorus of the one
Twofold. Initially, the acoustic guitar part was something that I was going to add on to the chorus of the main version of the song. And then the voicings are just, it's only in standard tuning, and the voicings are really pretty.
It's only in standard tuning.
Yeah, well, the song is in like drop B flat or something. It's ridiculously low. And I just thought it would be nice to have something up here, but that's being taken care of by some other ding-dongs, heavily affected guitars. So the acoustics didn't really fit. And then I just soloed the acoustics and the vocals. And it was like, Hats and I were like, oh, this is nice. And we didn't want to end the song with a cover. So, and then I was like, well, now I want to do a whole acoustic version of A Place to Call Home. But you're going to lose the weight of that sort of bluesy verse. It doesn't really translate to the standard tuned acoustic.
Right.
So yeah, it's sort of, and I think it's just dreamy and beautiful, and it's a lovely send-off at the end of a record. We were thinking maybe hidden track or whatever, but that's an old trick, so why don't you just put it on there and call it what it is,
Cool.
A reprise.
Who knows?
Reprise. I'm not sure.
We'll never know. Maybe people can tweet us answers.
Yeah, here we go.
Hashtag reprise or something. I don't know. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.